This lesson is for section 1.3 on order of operations. Our goal today is to be able to use order of operations to evaluate expressions. Alright, so let's go ahead and fill out this acronym on the side here, Pemdas, which is what we're going to use to help us remember the order of operations. So we start with parentheses, which means that whenever you see parentheses, that's where you're going to start with your evaluating. And then you're going to move on to exponents. And then we have multiplication and division, which are actually interchangeable. So just like you read a book, you're going to read a math problem from left to right. So sometimes division actually comes before multiplication. So those are actually interchangeable. It just depends on which one comes first in the problem. And then we have addition and subtraction. And the same goes for these guys. They are also interchangeable. So you might sometimes do subtraction before you do addition. It just depends on the unique problem. So in number 1, we actually have a problem where we're going to do subtraction before we do the addition because subtraction comes before addition, reading left to right. So I'm going to do 13 minus 8. And notice I simplify that and I put it right below the problem because I'm always going to show my work and where these numbers are coming from, because especially on a quiz or a test, we don't want you guys to just type it right into your calculator. We want you to show the work and explain how you got your answer. So finally I'll do 5 plus 3, which gives me 8. Now in number 2, it's a little different because the subtraction here is before the division. Well, we know in order of operations we have to do this division before we do the subtraction. So we're actually going to start here with 6 divided by 2. So I'm just going to drop the 8 and the minus sign here. So this is 8 minus 6 divided by 2, which is 3. And then after that I can do the subtraction. So 8 minus 3 gives me 5. Again, notice that I'm showing the work. Make sure you show each step that you're doing and what you're putting into your calculator. Now moving on to example 3, it's a little more complicated because we've got a few more numbers and operations here. So what we're going to do again is go from left to right. We want to plan this out before we even start the problem. So I know I don't want to do this subtraction because this division actually comes first. So I'm going to do the division and then I'll work on the multiplication here and then I'll go all the way back to the subtraction. So I'm going to just show all the work for this by copying down the parts that I'm not changing. So the 10, I haven't decided to do anything with that yet, so I'm going to do 10 minus. And then since I'm doing the division first, that's where I'm going to write 3 divided by 3 is 1. I'm going to bring down that multiplies by 2 and just show every step. Now I'm going to again do the multiplication first, so I have to bring down the 10 again. So 10 minus 2 is what I want to write, and then I simplify that to get 8. Now in number 4, we're actually going to start with this exponent before we begin with anything, right? Because that's really high on our list of order of operations. So we want to make sure we evaluate 2 to the 4th. 2 to the 4th is 16. So I'm going to write 16 times 4 minus 2 divided by 2. So I just show one step at a time and I show all the work for each step that I work on. So now I need to plan again what step I'm going to take. So I see it from left to right, I have a multiplication here, then followed by a subtraction. That's the last thing I want to work on. And I have another division. So I'm going to work on this from left to right. First I'll work on that multiplication. 16 times 4 gives me 64. I'm going to drop down that minus sign, and then I work on 2 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So in the end, I'm just going to type 64 minus 1 into my calculator to get 63. On number 5, we actually have parentheses here. So let's get started with that parentheses first. So again, I'm just going to copy down all the parts that I'm not changing quite yet. And I'm going to evaluate this parentheses. So 5 minus 3 gives me 2, and I'm going to square 2. Now I'm going to do both exponents in the same step because I think that's pretty easy to take care of both of those in the same step. So we'll drop down the 48, and then we'll work on this exponent. 4 squared, that's 4 times 4, that gives me 16. And 2 squared, that's 2 times 2, that gives me 4. Okay, so again, we're going to plan what we're going to do first. From left to right, we've got this division that we want to work on first, and then we'll go ahead and add. So if we divide 48 divided by 16, that gives me 3. And then 3 plus 4, the final answer here is 7. Now on number 6, we see 2 different sets of grouping symbols here. We've got brackets and we've got parentheses. So don't get confused when you see brackets. They really are just a different way of writing parentheses. So we're going to start, every time we see more than one grouping symbol, we're going to start with the innermost grouping symbol. So what I mean by that is you've got brackets on the outside, and on the inside of those brackets you've got a set of parentheses that group together to the 9 plus 3. So that's where you're going to start. You're going to start with the 9 plus 3 first, and then go to the next parentheses. So I'm just going to copy down that 2 and the bracket, and then I'm going to simplify 9 plus 3. That gives me 12. So I have 12 divided by 6. So now I've got one set of parentheses or brackets here, and so I work on that again. So I'm going to do 12 divided by 6 first. And you could put that in brackets, or you can just change that to parentheses if you want as well, because they're interchangeable, so don't get confused by that either. So we're doing 2 times 2 last to get 4. All right, now in the last two problems, our directions change a little bit because now we have to evaluate the expression when we define the variable x to equal 3. So now we have to do some substitution here. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in that 3 wherever I see an x. So the very first problem here, number 7, is really 3 squared minus 5. Now I'm just going to go ahead and follow order of operations. Remember, exponents come first, so I'm going to do 3 squared. That's 3 times 3, which gives me 9. So 9 minus 5 is just 4. In number 8, we're going to substitute that 3 in here for that x. So now I rewrite that as 27 divided by 3 minus 2 plus 16. So if I do order of operations, I want to make sure I do the division first. 27 divided by 3 is 9. So now I'm left with 9 minus 2 plus 16. So again, in order of operations, if you read from left to right, you're going to want to do the subtraction, and then you can do the addition. So 9 minus 2 is 7. 7 plus 16 gives me 23. So there's my final answer. All right, that's the last part of the notes. Nice job. I'll see you guys in class tomorrow.